Welcome to I Guess, a show where I hate everything until someone convinces me otherwise. I'm Lex Basile Price, and we need to get over our thing with feet, okay? We've become too obsessed.
We have?
I think so.
Huh.
With me today is the beautiful and hilarious Nick Brigadier.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm genuinely very excited for this.
Oh, good. But what are you wrong about?
What am I wrong about? So I am wrong in the fact that the Mothman is the most fascinating cryptid urban legend of the past, we'll say 60, 70 years. And furthermore, the thesis within the thesis is that Mothman can, in a very tangible way, help unite America.
Oh, okay. I'm fascinated by this point because I'll say, I have a little passing knowledge of cryptids. I was never super into them.
Do we need to provide a holistic explanation
I think
of cryptids?
we can.
I'm not sure how much of your audience will be, because I've had to sometimes, when I've expressed my fascination of Mothman, what is Mothman? Mothman is a cryptid. What is a cryptid? Sometimes.
Yeah. So cryptid, the word comes from cryptozoology.
Yes.
Which is hidden animals.
It's essentially the study of
biology
of creatures that may or may not be real.
Mm-hmm. Think Bigfoot.
Bigfoot's classic,
Yeah.
Loch Ness Monster.
Those are easy ones.
Some cryptids, such as the Kraken, have subsequently been proven to be real, giant squids, things of that nature. So
it's our understanding.
Yeah, our current understanding is that it's not real.
A real all science is magic, or it's now I'm fucking it up. Where all science will seem as magic if you don't have enough technology, basically.
I had that same motivational poster in my high school too. That was
word
verbatim,
for word,
yes,
with the
yes,
us and the stops
yes.
and starts.
Gandhi had a lot of great quotes like
Great.
that.
But yeah, I have passing familiarity with cryptids.
Okay.
I feel like it's been within the recent years that Mothman especially has been showing up.
Yes.
And perhaps it's because I'm originally from Southern California that I just do not have a connection. What do we got nothing out there.
You got the chupacabra if you go far enough south. But I suppose that's fair. Geographically, you are separate enough where there's not a cultural attachment to it.
No, we've got chupacabra and we've got jackalope.
Yes.
Further east. But yeah, so what started the fascination?
I think it was I just have a general fascination with spooky esoterica.
Okay.
And the Mothman has increasingly basically I'm trying to think. It probably I went to Scotland when I was I think 14, and we went to Loch Ness, and there were maybe little seeds of interest and stuff like that planted there. I can't say exactly where Mothman began. I did see the film The Mothman Prophecies.
Sure.
The Richard Gere classic.
Classic.
Really the zenith of his career. Move over, Pretty Women. But that I saw shortly after it came out in 2002. I can't really place a specific moment when it hit, but rephrase your question again, though, because I want to make sure I'm answering it directly. Was it just genuinely where...
Yeah, just where that interest came from.
So generally spookiness, esoterica. I think what I'm more interested in is not only just the mythology of the Mothman, but almost more the culture surrounding the cultural resonance of it. Obviously, it could go into great depth of the history of the Mothman.
Right.
A very TLDR is that in Point Pleasant, West Virginia in 1966, there were sightings of this humanoid creature with giant wings and glowing red eyes, and it was seen around an old World War II munitions factory.
I didn't know that part.
Yes, so there were some couples who driving had seen this thing, but multiple eyewitness sightings of it. This got some local reporting, and then after these newspaper reportings came out, surprise, surprise, lots of people started seeing it in the same area. And this kind of peaked in 1967, I believe November 15th, with the Silver Bridge collapse, which killed 46 people. It was just a bridge connecting West Virginia to Ohio. Collapse, killed 46 people. But there were sightings of the same creature shortly before that. And that kind of caused there to be this attachment of Mothman being a harbinger of doom. Subsequently, there were sightings of a winged creature with red eyes Chernobyl 1986. There were Chicago O'Hare Airport, weirdly enough, between 2011 and 2017, there were lots of sightings of what people said seemed to be the Mothman. Shortly before 9/11, there were people who said, of course, certainly no revisionist history there.
Yeah, no.
But yes, essentially, giant winged creature, red eyes, harbinger of doom. That's kind of the vibe of what Mothman is.
What I find so fascinating about Mothman is it doesn't do anything. It just kind of shows up.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? And then it makes like a irritating noise.
I don't know so much about the
Okay. But it just like shows up and it's like spooky.
Yes.
And then goes away.
Exactly. He's there, vibes for a little bit, and then kind of fucks off.
Camp. Look, this is drama.
There, stick a pin in that, because in regards to how Mothman has grown culturally, so there was a book written in 1975, The Mothman Prophecies by John Keel. It kind of just collected all of these stories, put it in a book. This got turned into the aforementioned classic Richard Gere 2002
cinema.
Peak cinema. 2002 film, The Mothman Prophecies. And that kind of put Mothman on the map in a broader capacity. And so in 2002, there was the first Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And they also built a Mothman statue in the middle of the town.
Even though there is very limited descriptions of what it actually looks like, right? Because it's like pieces. It's like the three blind men describing an elephant.
It is a campier, funner version of that, yes. Yeah. But this Mothman Festival has grown wildly in size. It has every subsequent year gotten bigger and bigger.
Wow.
There's vendors, there's music, there's speech, there's like talks given, to the point where September 20th, 2024, for that whole weekend, I drove to Point Pleasant, West Virginia to attend the Mothman Festival and got to be at ground zero of where it all started and how many tens of thousands of people it drew to this tiny little West Virginia town. So that was kind of the zenith of like the codification of like how much Mothman has impacted culture, because like there's no like real like Bigfoot festival that I'm aware of. I'm sure there's something, but there's no Chupacabra. But like Mothman has drawn the people together.
I think you can kind of put whatever you want on Mothman.
Yes.
There's like
he's so aloof. What I've also realized about Mothman, I think this has something to do with it, is, and I even did, have you ever done like a presentation party? Like during the pandemic where people would like bring like a 5-minute PowerPoint? No,
but what I have done, scarier to some would say, was I did a show that someone else ran that was, I presented a PowerPoint that I had no idea what the subject was.
Oh, yes.
Which was really fun.
Where you have to justify each slide as it's like coming in.
My subject was chairs, which actually couldn't have been more perfect for me. Because fuck standing. But yeah, so I understand the concept.
So I did a party specifically on the sexualization of Mothman that has occurred over the past 10 to 15 years.
He's so tubular.
What?
Isn't he so like
once again, you can put whatever you want to on it. If you want an otter Mothman, you can get an otter Mothman.
Sure.
If that's your jam. And there's plenty of deviant art that has Mothman presented in every permutation you could think of. But I was more fascinated with like, why? Because I feel like 2002, internet culture starting to become more widespread. Mothman Prophecies comes out. This is where the audience, well, actually, I was going to say the audience can't see, but they might be able to
maybe
see.
This part.
This is where the corkboard would come out. Because I tried to figure out why the sexualization of Mothman became such a thing, and I think it coincides with the rise in just Mothman becoming so popular. I'll give you the TLDR and what my presentation concluded. The statue they built for the Mothman in Point Pleasant, he's too hot.
Oh.
He's silver. He's like 7 feet tall, like an 8-pack, and like a tight, pert ass that people have discovered you can balance coins at the very top of. And so that's kind of like a little keepsake people do. Like they will leave little coins perfectly balanced in his pert butt cheeks. And they made him so hot. And this happened right when, like, you know, YouTube and Reddit and like all of these like sort of like underground or formerly underground cryptids and urban legends became a thing. I think Mothman just happened to ride this wave of...
Especially if he has a butt. There's no reason for Mothman to have a butt.
He's got... Well, I mean, look, everything's got to have a butt.
No, I know, but like a moth doesn't have
Check your butt privilege.
But a moth doesn't have a butt.
But a Mothman? A Mothman.
Okay, that's where the man. They're like, so what you're saying is the artist was definitely like, we need to give this Mothman a huge hog. And they're like, you can't. And he's like, well, how am I going to symbolize that he's a man?
Yes.
It's like ass.
Yes.
Got it.
I mean, I don't know. This is West Virginia. I don't know if they could give him like a giant throbbing moth phallus. Maybe that's, or proboscis, so to speak.
Maybe.
But I guess an ass was like a nice middle ground. But there's also been Mothman erotica that has been written. A few, I actually, hang on, I do have the presentation. A few titles just so listeners can get like an example of what's out there. The Tamer is like a Mothman to flame. I can show you the artwork right there.
I mean, that Mothman can get it. But it's very like angel wingy.
Well, this guy is kind of like a twink with angel wings. But then they made Mounting the Mothman, The Alien Sex Chronicles Volume 4, along with Fap for the Mothman, a cryptoerotica adventure number 3.
Is that not Chuck Tingle? No.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Chuck Tingle, because the very last full Mothman erotica that I had seen was by, of course, the prolific Chuck Tingle. Bisexual Mothman mailman makes a special delivery in our butts.
Great.
That is the
See, that's what I want.
Yes.
That kind of Mothman.
That's what you want out of your Mothman.
I mean, I will say, having been to Appalachia, I understand why something this weird would have come out of there. There is something
there's nothing else going on.
That, but it's also inherently spooky.
It is. Having now driven through West Virginia at night, it is. West Virginia is beautiful. I gotta say, driving through is beautiful. Driving through at night, it's so sparsely populated. There's no light pollution, and there's just long stretches where you're on a country road and there's nothing.
I did a show in Kentucky, and I got lost at one point. And I was like, well, this is how I die.
You just immediately make peace with it.
Yeah.
I've had a good life. I've had a good run.
I've heard a saying of, if you're in Appalachia and you hear someone behind you, no, you didn't. Like, that feels very... There's a Appalachia and Ireland, I feel like, kind of mirror each other in a lot of ways. And it's like, if fairies were real in the States,
yes,
they would be in Appalachia. And maybe Mothman is a fairy.
You know, that's possible. The theories about what Mothman is are as simple as it was a big owl that people mistook, a collective mass hysteria, an alien.
Sure.
Once again, you can kind of ascribe whatever you want Mothman to be on it. I think once you kind of condition people to say, like, the original sightings, who knows what those people saw? But once there's reportings that there's a giant winged creature with red glowing eyes, you're kind of conditioning people to see that. And so,
anything that's remotely similar.
Yes. So I would consider myself a skeptic who wants to believe.
Sure.
But it's not that I don't think that they didn't see anything, but, interdimensional alien ghost harbinger of calamity.
But for me, it's not even that Mothman is a harbinger of calamity. He just happens to, like, let you know something's happening.
He's just wrong place. Well,
yeah,
okay.
Like, he's not doing it. He's just kind of being like, eee.
What if he just has the worst luck of all?
Yeah, right?
Yes. Maybe he's trying to help.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's like a crappy superhero who just is always...
He's really shy, though.
Yes. I mean...
He gets stage fright.
Yes. He doesn't like the limelight, which is ironic because he's a moth.
Right. Well, you know what? The fascinating thing I found about moths is, of like, oh, they're attracted to flame, they're attracted to lights.
Yeah.
That's because they navigate a lot by the light of the moon. And actually, that's like a death sentence for them because they get trapped. If you look at bugs and moths flying around lights, they actually fly in a circular motion around it because they situate their bodies to the light. So they basically, those lights completely fuck up their sense of direction.
That's really tragic, actually.
I know.
So if you turn the light off, does it
helps.
Snap them out
Exactly.
of it? Huh.
You have to, like, release them from the
if
light.
If you love your moths, you have to let them go.
Yes.
Wow.
And there's some cute fucking moths out there.
There are. Well, I could show you some Mothman art if you want to.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
G-string, on pole, like, truly.
Of course.
And I did this strictly for research.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thorough.
Did you use an incognito tab?
I mean, that's
why?
That's neither here nor there. I don't see why that's relevant to the conversation. So there's more I could say just about like specific rabbit holes of the Mothman and like the fact that like Point Pleasant has a Mothman museum, which was interesting and cute at the same time. It was a lot of like original newspaper clippings of the original sightings. That I found pretty cool. But then they have this section where there was like a police jacket, and it's like this, or no, a blanket. There was a police jacket on one side, but there was a blanket specifically. I remember, and like this blanket touched Richard Gere in the 2002 film The Mothman Prophecies.
Well, now we're just a fucking
Planet Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
Now it's just one of those museums.
It basically was. It was a real grab bag of like whatever. Like they had, like Mothman action figures that were made over the years, but they were really kind of grasping for that. But now there was a second part to my Mothman thesis of like Mothman can actually unite a very divided
Right.
America.
I do want to get to that.
So the experience of, first off, just driving to West Virginia, fascinating, because I rented a car here in New York City and I just drove myself down.
That's what, 10 hours?
Yeah, but actually about 9.5, 10 hours. So I split it up over 2 days. And I kind of made little stops along the way, like a haunted asylum here that was along the path.
Of course.
A weird roadside Americana attraction there that was also kind of there along the way. What was interesting, and there were plenty of people who had like a base level interest, but I was the only one who was willing to rent a car and drive all the way down. And the only option was this giant SUV. So I drove this SUV down. That actually
that probably ended up being the correct decision.
It was the correct decision. I did not.
You don't want to show up in a little like Leaf.
Yeah, your little
Nissan. Prius.
I've got to charge my car. But I will also say that the roads in West Virginia are so small because there's so little traffic on so many of these roads. They just kind of are conditioned for you to pull off to the side if a car is coming the other way, because there's not enough room for two cars to pass each other through like 90% of West Virginia's roads.
Barely speed limit.
Yeah. Oh, or just no speed.
Or speed limit. Yeah, that's like a suggestion, maybe.
Yes. True. Quote unquote freedom. But when I went to the Mothman Festival, I had seen like some videos and stuff. So like I had some idea of like what it was going to be like. But what was fascinating was the very specific Venn diagram of people who committed to showing up to the Mothman Festival. And it really was two categories. It was almost 50% of each one of these. It was, I would say, queer goth Gen Z and then salt of the earth rednecks in equal numbers, fully there for the exact same reason and unironically there for the exact same reason, and having a great time.
Just all celebrating Mothman.
And I can't think of that many other things that would unite such a wildly diverse group of people who then all get along fine. And I think we inadvertently were kind of speaking about why that is. It's because Mothman is kind of a belief that you can put a little bit of whatever you want into. If you think it's an alien, if you think it's just a fun urban legend, if you think it is a collective whatever, you can find what you're looking for.
Is there any photographic evidence?
No photographic evidence.
Because that's what I was wondering. Because I think if we compare it to like a Sasquatch,
yes,
right? That's kind of, and Loch Ness Monster, we have an idea of what those are because we have these like photos, videos, right? And so we have to ascribe something because we've physically seen it.
Yes.
I almost wonder if Mothman can speak to so many people because it's just this vague description.
I think that's 100% why. Okay. I think with the Chicago O'Hare Airport sightings, I believe there's some of course.
That was some person.
Yeah.
That was not, I almost feel like maybe it was in Chernobyl, but like, I kind of wish it was just in Appalachia. And it's
that it could be their thing.
Yeah, it's just that's where it lives. Mothman doesn't need to be a global hero.
No.
They're your local neighborhood Mothman.
No, and I think Appalachia needs that because what's another more like anthropologically fascinating thing that has also happened with this is Mothman Festival. I don't know an exact amount of how much money that brings to Point Pleasant's economy for like the year. Like just these 2 or 3 days were just tens of the parking situation was fat. It's a small West Virginia town. It's not built to accommodate a festival, especially one that's grown so much. So you have to drive like a half hour out of the way to like a camping ground where they set up parking. But it brings so much to the economy that there's now all of these kind of like just these small like either Midwestern or Southern towns that have just, been experiencing economic hardship, people leaving.
That have just been abandoned,
They're
basically.
hunting for their local cryptid, just anything that they can grasp on, and trying to make it like their town's personality, to bring tourism and to bring foot traffic, because they've seen how successful Point Pleasant, West Virginia has become.
Yeah,
through Mothman Festival.
a meme can be a godsend.
Truly. So there's like, oh god, what are they? The Kentucky. I can't believe I'm brain farting on it. There was a goblin attack in some Kentucky town, some hobgoblin attack, where like there was a shootout. The cops were called, but like it was just like this fun, forgotten little historical anecdote. But now they're trying to make that a thing. Or there's the, oh my god, how can I be forgetting all of these cryptids? There's this lizard thing in another town. But basically they're all trying to kind of do the same thing. But Mothman Festival, like when you're at Mothman Festival, you can also get your Sasquatch memorabilia. You can also get like alien. They kind of became. It's very inclusive of a lot of different.
Very
cryptids.
Comic-Con.
Yes.
Adjacent.
It was very much that much vibe. If anyone listening has been to Comic-Con, smaller scale, but
outdoors,
of course. But that same thing: vendors, food, keynote speakers, all that stuff. They have a haunted hayride near the TNT site where the original sighting was. But once again, I think it's the fact that you can it's almost like a benign religion where it's like there's no toxicity in it. There's been no knock on wood, God, and I hope this stays the same way. There's been like no cult formed around it. There's been no one who's done like a mass shooting in the name of it. There's been like nothing toxic about it.
Right.
It's just a wholesome, fun conspiracy theory, basically. And the fact that it can serve as a common denominator for so many different types of people, I think is genuinely unique in America where we find ourselves now.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a nugget of something there that can actually unite so many Americans in a way that is actually possibly like, conducive to us not being at each other's throats. And so I just have an interest in Mothman from like the same spooky esoterica foundation of like, I'm interested in like lots of other things, hauntings, things like that. But then just like from a broader anthropological side of things, I'm also very interested because I'm like, having been to the Mothman Festival with intentions to go back at some point, maybe not immediately next year. I might take a year off.
Give it some.
We'll see.
Let them update their merch.
Yeah, let them cook. And having been there and just witnessed it, it's just very interesting because I have not been in a place, we're all in our own little bubbles, so to speak. This was one place where I saw different bubbles overlapping and none of them popping.
See, that's fascinating because you would expect, and it speaks to Point Pleasant that they could accommodate that seemingly as part of its mission for this festival of like, we're going to bring in these people. We're not going to try to exclude one of those groups. And whether that's for money reasons or whatever, okay. There's been worse ways capitalism has been used.
Yes. There was one point where somebody, I think this was Mothman Festival 2022 or 2023, said at one point, like, I'm pretty sure this is the most gay people who have ever been in West Virginia at any one time.
Yeah.
And they welcomed everyone. It was
mini pride.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I can get there with you on the anthropology side, I think.
Okay.
Like I am very much skeptical about just cryptids in general. I think more likely that there's going to be stuff at the bottom of the sea.
Oh God, yeah.
That's terrifying to me.
Yes.
People that think space is terrifying, you're wrong. It's this deep sea is horrifying. The pressure.
Emotional, literal.
Yeah. I'm willing to say that there's a ton that we don't know. And I'm willing to say there's a ton of stuff, things in the world that in our own planet, we don't know.
Yes.
A lot of those are bugs.
Truly.
I just feel like a giant moth person with a tight ass.
The tight ass is admittedly an artist's rendition. We don't really know what Mothman's ass looks like, but
he's really shy about it.
Yeah, there's a reason he's only been seen at night.
Well, now he sounds like he's cruising. In the woods of West Virginia.
I mean, I believe it was kind of at like a make-out point. Like it was couples in a car who saw Mothman for the first time. He was maybe trying to be a moth unicorn, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
We just don't know. The evidence isn't there yet.
The erotica seems to indicate that Mothman is horny. So Perhaps.
My research stopped short of actually reading the Mothman erotica.
Sure.
But if we ever do a follow-up on this,
Great, yeah.
I don't know
A book report.
I don't know if me recapping erotica ties in with the theme of this podcast.
Sure.
But
We can bonus episodes.
yes,
I mean,
like a bonus episode.
Ooh, funnily enough, in high school and college, a friend of mine and I would buy shitty erotica from bookstores, like volumes of short stories, and we would rate them on a system that we came up with that included a count for the amount of times the word towel had been said and it was a lot.
Really?
And then we would trade them back and forth and agree with the ratings or not. So I'm not innocent to erotica and real dumb erotica.
In college, we briefly did this thing where we would try to find, just hanging out in a friend's dorm, we would try to find the worst erotica that we could find online, and we would do dramatic readings of it. But I was in a comedy club at the time, and so we'd pass around, we would assign characters. You're doing this person's voice, you're doing this, you're doing narration.
You have to take it seriously.
Exactly. And so we would play it at, the height of our intelligence, try to, we did chapters of My Immortal. I don't know if you've heard the Harry Potter My Chemical Romance,
which is weird that it was My Chemical Romance because wasn't My Immortal Evanescence?
It was Evanescence, yes.
Okay.
It was a real hodgepodge of all of the moodiest, gothiest, emoist 2004 circa 2008 you could find.
I can't believe I just came out as an Evanescence fan.
Fallen by Evanescence was the third or fourth album I ever bought. The first three were all Linkin Park albums. So
we are different in so many ways, but similar in so many ways.
Honestly, I re-listened to that album on Spotify for the first time in 6 months. 6 months ago, it still holds up.
I think you could soundtrack a Mothman erotica to Evanescence.
Yes.
There's an Appalachian quality
can you
to
see
that.
into my various moth eyes like open doors?
TM. TM. I'm trademarking someone else's music.
Yes.
And probably someone else's Mothman
there was a
erotica.
Transformative nature to it. It's ours now. And we all know you repeat TM fast enough, it becomes trademark.
Yes, that's how it works.
That's just the law.
Wow, this has been absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not what I expected you to bring in. I'm glad you did, because I did know this was one part of you.
There's 4 parts that make me up. One of these is Mothman.
And I think that was the correct choice today.
Well, you alluded to some of the other topics that I haven't heard yet that other people have brought to the table. And I'm very interested to hear the actual episodes. And I will wait till they're out.
Sure.
At the time of this recording, they're not. But and I will listen to them. And I will rate and review this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever I get my podcasts. Are we
doing my work for me? I haven't even been, you say that. I've done podcasts for over 6 years, and I have not been doing that.
No call to action at the end?
No call to action. I probably should.
Well, it's your podcast. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, I guess. Is it over? Is it cringe to ask people to do the work?
It's I'm more than happy to do it. I've hosted podcasts before, and sometimes you just want to lean back and let the guests do all the work, which, as I was saying before we recorded, is the perfect premise for this, for this whole show.
Thank you.
But yes, so I feel like I should recap what the actual statement was that I was wrong on.
Yeah, you have really, truly, I agree. There is something to the concept of Mothman. If we could find,
there's a nugget in there that works for everyone. If we can extract that
and inject it back into society, I think you've got something there.
Yes.
And so I need you to find it. Your new mission in life, fuck everything else, is to find what the nugget of Mothman is, because I do think you're onto something.
The problem is it has to be benign. I feel like there's people, whether it's QAnon or crystals that fight 5G, there's plenty of things that don't have a benign aspect to them. But Mothman genuinely, we just need to find fun conspiracy theories again. We lost that thread 8 or 10 years ago.
I think with the emergence of only 3 websites, we've kind of, we don't have a GeoCities.
We don't.
Angel Fire Network.
No, that's honestly, yes.
That might be it.
I think that was just, I know there's generations of the internet, whatever generation we're in now, late stage internet.
Crumbling internet, yeah.
Yes. I deleted my X account, or my Twitter. I will dead name Twitter. It's the only thing I will do.
Yeah.
I did finally delete that, and it felt very good. And I'm making my final affairs in order to get rid of my Facebook permanently as well.
That I did a while ago.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I made the intention like a year ago, and I've said, okay, I'm gonna sit for a year and see, do I actually need Facebook for anything? Because it's been so intrinsically tied to my life for like 17 years.
Sure.
It's deleting a huge chunk of that.
But now it's just AI slop.
It is so bad. It's so bad.
I'm not even on Facebook, and I know what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was on Facebook, I wasn't using Facebook. The only reason I kept Facebook for so long was because that's how I had to invite people to shit.
Yeah. But now we got Partyful.
We are not a Partyful podcast. I am done with Partyful.
Okay, is there something wrong with Partyful? I've heard that there's a controversy with it.
No. Partyful is anti-Mothman. Partyful.
Oh, wow. Tell me. I'm on the edge of
Partyful. There's something about it that makes people think that they aren't as bespoke to come to your party. It's the email blast of invitations. I think, as someone who has game nights and dinner parties and celebrations a lot,
yes,
and have had very large gatherings, if I individually text people, they feel more indebted to come. I think with Partyful, while it's made it very easy, people think, oh, well, because it's so easy, they don't actually care if I come. And if they can see who is coming, which you would think, oh, that's a positive, because then be like, oh, look at all these cool people. They instead go, oh, well, they have all those people going. I don't need to go.
But you can't see who's going until you at least RSVP maybe.
And what people do on Partyful is they do RSVP, and then 2 or 3 days before, they un-RSVP.
See, for me, I look at the quantity of people coming. I got invited to some party that I was one of 300 guests on. I somehow ended up on someone's contact list that they just mass invited. But like, if I know the person personally who's inviting me, I don't mind having a central, because that was the one thing Facebook was good at, like organizing events.
But that's because you're a good person. And I'm saying, as I've said on this podcast before, and I'm sure I will continue to say on this podcast, most people are not good. They aren't evil, but they are lazy. And you are a good person because it takes work to be a good person.
Are you speaking to like the just kind of perfectly neutral 70-80% of the population that just kind of is there? There was I heard this quote recently because David Lynch recently passed away, and so of course social media is flooded with like interviews and stuff he said. And there was one time where he said he didn't have his first real thought until he was 20 years old, and he says it was the first time he can recall having an original thought that was just not like, that was just outside. That was not regurgitated. That was just outside of the sphere, because he was from some Missouri,
somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. And he can recall the first time he had an original thought that was just separate from just like, and to me that just speaks to that. Oh, and you're just like not autopiloting through your life. And so first off, I'll take that compliment. Thank you very much. Okay, so you're saying Partyful speaks to the benign evil in like the general population.
Whereas Mothman speaks to the benign goodness in people, of warning of disaster, but also not imparting too much of any kind of one way or the other.
That is true, but I don't want it to be forgotten that the statement that you said something is anti-Mothman was so out of pocket, and I'm going to continue to use that,
please,
as a ranking of things. That was
anti-Mothman.
Yes. What would Mothman do?
Oh.
WWMD. We'll workshop that a little bit.
Where are the WMDs?
Where are the WMDs? This is a political podcast.
But if you know where they are, you can rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. We love hearing from you. And Nick, where can our listeners find more from you?
Oh, you can find me. Well, actually, this is great because, as I've said, I've been purging myself of social media accounts. Instagram is still a necessary evil for me, so you can find me there. I'm on Blue Sky now as well, just dipping my toe in there to see. So far, it's great. It is currently old Twitter circa 2012, 2013, so you can find me there as well. My website, nickbreeder.com. I'm a video producer. For my day job, I just say I pretend to be a YouTuber for a big company, which is basically what I do. So you can find out all the information there. But yeah, hit me up. I would love to. I'm very curious to see the audience that this podcast draws, because I Am I the third guest you?
You are the third guest I've recorded. Yes,
I'm already interested in the topics the previous two guests have that you said that they've spoken about. So I'm very curious to see what audience comes out of this, and hear what they have to say if they want to reach out.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Nick.
And thank you again for having me. This was a lot of fun. The couch is so comfortable.
Oh, good.
This is the first I've done many podcasts. This is the first one I've gotten to lounge, and I
Perfect.
wish I'd been doing this since the beginning.
Perfect. So join us next time as we once again prove that my opinion is always correct about everything all the time.